The Last Litanies of the Broken Sun, a novel in 3 chapters. Chapter 1. The scroll of Lycandros. The dust rose in little whirls across the courtyard stones, catching fire in the last red light of the dying sun. There in that ruin of an old academy, walls fallen, columns sun-gnawed and half-toppled, sat Lycandros of Therm. Some called him a physician, others a dream scribe, and still others a heretic whose ink ran too near the old forbidden stories. He wrote with the slow, careful strokes of a man convinced that language was a way of evoking spirits. His beard lay gray and tangled on his chest. The lines of his face were like dry riverbeds that had once known flood. Before him lay a scroll of calfskin stretched taut by rocks scavenged from the broken courtyard. He dipped his reed into a bowl of what he claimed was a tincture squeezed from the roots of the strophe plant, a thing the desert shepherds burned before sleep to dream of serpents and gods. He murmured as he wrote, and the murmuring carried through the empty colonnade like the low dirge of a temple long abandoned. They will not accept these words, he wrote. They will say the wanderer was divine. They will say he healed the blind with the wind and raised the dead with a whisper. But these are the stories of men who fear the shape of things. I have lived and walked beside that wanderer, and I have known him to be neither god nor demon but something far stranger. He paused. The wind stirred the scroll's edge. A student approached from across the courtyard, a young man named Theron whose eyes held a light that the world would later beat from him. He carried a jug of water, though water was a scarce mercy in that region. Lycandros accepted it but did not drink. "Master," Theron said quietly, "the council has heard rumors of your work. They say you seek to unmake their most sacred tales." Lycandros smiled. His eyes were tired but curious. "I do not unmake. I unmask. There is a great difference. They say you dishonor the wanderer. I honor him as he was." Lycandros leaned over the scroll. "Not as he has been remade." Theron shifted. "Is it true, master, that the wanderer used the red sap of the maddening flower? That he gave it to his followers?" Lycandros' gaze drifted to the last flame shreds of the setting sun. "The sap," he said, "was not madness but vision. A fire laid in the skull. He used it to burn away the false selves that the world had clothed upon his disciples, and they followed him because he showed them the bare root of existence. Whether they were wise to do so is not mine to judge." Theron stepped closer. "And you? Did you partake?" Lycandros' silence was its own confession. He wiped the reed along the bowl's rim and continued writing. "The wanderer named Escheron was a man of white scars and ancient eyes," the scroll continued. "He came from the salt flats beyond the basalt hills, speaking in riddles braided with the tongue of shepherds and the tongue of kings. He moved through the world as though through a dream. Those who followed him learned to see the seams in the skin of reality. They saw light pour from cracks in the sky. They saw the vines of being reach from the earth toward the heavens like supplicants frozen in their final prayer." Theron read over his shoulder. "These are dangerous words. All true words are dangerous. Then why write them?" Lycandros set the reed aside. "Because truth must find someone to bear it, even if the bearer is destroyed. This is our fate, Theron. To stand in the shadow of great stories and dare to say, this is not how it happened." He rose, bones creaking like ice. He walked to the far end of the courtyard where a broken statue of an unnamed deity lay half buried. He rested his hand on its weathered brow. "The wanderer was no god," Lycandros said. "But he was also no ordinary man. He carried in his blood the memory of a time when men and gods walked closer. The red sap let him taste that borderland. It made him believe he could tear the veil. Did he succeed?" Theron whispered. Lycandros looked to the horizon, where darkness pooled like ink spilled from some celestial inkwell. "In a way," he said. "He opened the veil just enough that we have been haunted ever since." The old scholar returned to his scroll. "Now leave me," he said, "for I must finish this before the moon rises." Theron hesitated. "Master, the council will come for you." "Yes," Lycandros murmured. "But the story will be written." Night descended like the slow closing of a giant eye. By the time the moon's pale blade rose over the ruins, the scroll was complete. It told of Escharon, the wanderer who drank visions, who led his followers across the desert in search of a kingdom made not of earth but of light, who believed suffering was a doorway, who claimed the world was a dream held by a sleeping god, and that through fire or sap or pain one might awaken. When the torches appeared on the far ridge, Lycandros rolled the scroll and tied it with twine. He gave it to Theron. "Take this," he said. "Hide it. Protect it. For though men worship their illusions, they fear the truth that stands outside them." Theron accepted the scroll with trembling hands. And when the council guards seized Lycandros and dragged him away, the old scholar did not resist. He walked as though he had long foreseen this fate, as though he had glimpsed the shape of his own ending in the fumes of the strophe root. Theron ran into the night, the scroll beating against his ribs like a second heart. That was the last known day of Lycandros of Therm. But his words would not rest. They would pass from one secret reader to another, through ages and empires, until they found their way into the hands of a woman who would change everything.